What's up, y'all? It's Fizzy here with another Kendama tutorial. Today we're going to do Tama grip fundamentals. So we're going to talk about Lighthouse, airplane, Lunar, pull-ups, flips, swaps, things like that. I love Tama grip tricks. They are super fun and they're not as hard as they seem at first, so I'm going to break it down for you here. So the first one you should go for is straight up pull-up Lighthouse. So when you're doing Tama grip pull-ups, because of the string hole on the Ken and just the nature of the shape of the Ken, it's going to be a little trickier than a Ken grip pull-up. So the Tama stays pretty stable when you're hanging it on the string, but the Ken, it is at an angle, it wobbles, it spins. It's just a little bit more wonky. But you can control every motion that happens with it. I'm going to show you some basics of how. So when you do a pull-up, you're going to try to go with your knees as straight up and down as you can for that Lighthouse. And you just want to try to keep it stable. Now, if you find that the Ken is doing wonky stuff and not remaining stable, not going in the right direction, ending up in some weird position, that's okay. You're actually practicing how to make the Ken move, because everything that the Ken does is not random. It's actually based on your movements. So if you want to do a pull-up airplane, a pull-up Lunar, anything like that, it's actually going to be by manipulating the pull of the string on the Ken. So I'm going to get into what we're talking about here. So straight up and down with the knees, that's that Lighthouse, right? But as you do that pull-up, if you move your hand in a direction, whatever direction you move your hand in as you're going up and down for that pull-up, that's what direction the Ken will point. So if you pull the Tama towards yourself, you're going to have that Ken spike start to go towards yourself. If you pull the Tama to the right, the Ken spike will go to the right. Whichever way you pull, that's which way the Ken is going to go. So you can tell it exactly what to do. So for an airplane, you want to pull it towards yourself in order to get that Ken to start pointing to you and get all the way in. So you got to do that while you're going down with the knees. You also can manipulate that spin. So if you just let that Tama go, or if you let the Ken go, it'll just spin around a lot of the time and not necessarily be in the exact position you want. So what you can do is you use your other hand, and right before your little dip down, you can give the Ken a spin to get it to exactly where you want. So it helps to have it when you're doing airplanes, Lunars, anything like that, to let it go and let it spin so that it is pointed cup directly towards you, kind of straight like this. And that way when you pull it, it's going to start doing a Ken flip directly over itself in the proper straight way. If you kind of let it be wonky sideways, then the Ken flip's going to be all crazy and random. So you're going to try to use your knees. You're going to try to use your hand, your off hand, to give it a little spin. And then you're going to go down and up, and you pull it towards yourself, and that'll give you that perfect little airplane spike, right? So it looks like that. Okay? So that's the basic, right? You spin, down, up, spike, right? So that's the same exact form as you would use to do a whole bunch of other Tama grip pull-up tricks. So if you just do that exact same thing, except for pull a little less hard towards yourself, gentle, that's how you do a Lunar, okay? If you pull a little harder, you can get all the way around to a full turn. There's a Lighthouse with a full turn, and you can go beyond. You can go multiple turns. It's all about dip, pull, and letting go with your offhand right at that right moment, okay? So work on that. Have patience with yourself. Don't get frustrated. It takes time to master that muscle memory. But yes, I believe in you. In no time, you're going to be doing those pull-ups, no problem. All right, so now let's talk about some other tricks in Tama grip. So once you got your pull-ups down, you got to Lighthouse, Lunar, hopefully, airplane. Another trick that works for all those is a flip. So a basic flip is just taking your setup in whatever position it is and getting the Ken to do one full turn and landing back in the same position. So airplane flip, that's a J stick. Lunar full turn, that's a lunar flip. Lighthouse full turn, that's a lighthouse flip. These are really good practice for really locking in your lighthouses, lunars. So once you get it in whatever position you want, you can kind of feel the balance. You have a little bit of give when you're doing a lighthouse or a lunar, and there's a certain point where it falls off. So if you turn it too much, it's gonna fall off, right? So you want to find those edges of where is your limit there, because that's actually going to give you sort of your framework for how you're going to do the flip. So if you let it fall off kind of pointed towards yourself, you'll notice that the Tama ends up pushing out, the Ken pushing in. That's kind of the motion that you actually want to do for the flip. So what you want to do is let it almost fall off towards yourself, but right as it is, you're going down and you're pushing up, but you're letting it fall off towards yourself. You don't just pushing straight up. You want it to go a little bit towards yourself, right? And that will allow the Ken to do that flip. And it's going to be about, how hard you push. If you just do a little one, you can go straight to lunar or, to the spike or whatever. You go all the way around. It's a full flip. So yeah, for lighthouse, it's all about, letting it fall off towards yourself as you push it up. Now, if you let it fall off too much, it's going to spin all crazy. It's going to go, multi flips. So you got to find that sweet spot. The same thing with lunars. You're kind of trying to find that sweet spot where it falls off. So if it's falling off this way, that's actually a good spot. That's kind of right where you want to do the lunar flip. You want to push up to get it to fall off this way. And so when you're doing the inward flips, it's going to be the exact opposite. If you're doing a lighthouse flip, you want the spike to point that way, kind of right at that sweet spot where it's falling off that way as you do the knees down and up. And you can also sort of manipulate that by just pulling the Tama back. That's basically the same thing as you do the flip. But yeah, for lunar flips, it's the same thing. So if you're doing a regular flip, you kind of want it to be falling off that way. If you're doing an inward flip, you want it to be falling off the other way. So you can kind of play with it when it falls off, and that's actually the sweet spot for those flips. So then you want to practice flipping between these positions. So once you got your flips down, you're going to want to go figure out exactly how much energy it takes to flip from lighthouse to lunar, back to lighthouse, lunar to inward lunar, back to spike, all that stuff. It all comes with the same sort of fundamentals there. It's all about going down with the knees and just telling the Ken exactly what to do. Okay, one we didn't really cover is an inward lunar pull-up. I didn't because it's a little bit different. So instead of doing a little twist and pulling towards yourself like the airplane or the one-turn lighthouse or the regular lunar, the inward lunar is a little bit different. You almost want the Ken to be straight side by side, and you kind of like do a frisbee throw almost with your Tama hand, and that's what gives the inward lunar its direction. So you go down and you do it's like a really gentle flick of the wrist, and that's what gets you to inward lunar. Some people find that to be easier than the lunar pull-up. You basically just go straight down. It doesn't take much. But yes, inward lunar is very cool. And so for the inward lunar flips, it's just the opposite of the Lunar, where to get an inward flip, you're letting it fall off, spike pointing there, and to get a reverse, you're doing it the other way, letting it fall off this way. But that's all basically the same fundamentals there. And yeah, those are kind of the basics. So then you can play around a lot with flow, going from spike to Lighthouse to Lunar to whatever you want. All right, now let's talk about some enders. So the most basic Tama grip enders are going to be just going right to the spike. So whatever ones you land, you know, if it's Lunar, you should practice from the Lunar going direct to spike, or even doing more complicated flips to spike, like you're in Lunar, go all the way around and back to spike, right? And same thing with inward, you can go spike that way, or you can go all the way back this way to spike, right? And for the Lighthouse, same thing. You got the Lighthouse, you can spike it that way, or you can spike it the reverse way. So you can practice all those things, right? But there's also more fun enders, of course. So one of my favorites is what's called a trade spike, where you're in Tama grip, you've got the Ken balanced on the Tama, and then in one motion, you throw both pieces up, you end up catching the Ken and landing the Tama on the spike. So the easiest one to do is Lighthouse. So from Lighthouse, basically what you're doing here is you're paying attention to where the hole is on the Tama. You're going straight down and up and giving that Tama a gentle rotation. And as you do, you're going to grab the Ken and spike the hole. Okay, so that's a basic Lighthouse trade spike. But you can do the same thing for these other positions. You go inward Lunar, you can trade spike that. You can even trade spike a regular Lunar. It's a little bit wonky, but you can do it. So yeah, those are some great things. And then another thing I love to do, you can do any other trick right out of Tama grip. So my favorite trick to do is juggles. So what I love to do is play around with getting in Lunar, getting my jug chain started, right? Or even doing a full flip to start it. That was like a ghost where I just started juggling without a flip, but you can go a full flip, right? And the same thing with Lighthouse. You can start juggling right out of Lighthouse, right? Or even from an airplane. So play around with it. There's really no end to the fun tricks you can do with Tama grip. I believe in you. Keep up the grind. Fizzy out.